I don't believe in neutrality. I believe neutrality is impossible because the world is already moving in certain directions. And to be neutral, to pretend to neutrality, to not take a stand in a situation like that is to collaborate with whatever's going on, to allow it to happen. No, you can't be neutral on a moving train.
Letter carriers say they've been working for more than 500 days without a contract, and today they made their voices heard on the streets.
USPS failed to protect Eugene Gates and others.
Can't take it no more.
Mail carrier robbed at gunpoint.
Yes, are targeting these mail carriers for their universal keys.
Nearly 1,200 reported attacks and other assaults on postal workers just last year alone.
Next generation carriers and guests are individual union members speaking in a personal capacity, and they do not represent the views of the NALC, the United States Postal Service, or any other entity that is spoken on this program. My name is John Murphy. I'm out of Naples, Florida, branch 4716. Before I jump over to the other guests, I want to give a little history about who I actually am. My name has been floating around other podcasts recently. 2006, I joined the Carpenters Union up in Boston, Massachusetts, Local 40. I was a shop steward and I was a delegate to the state. I had an application for the business agent position. I was interviewed and I lost the position because of my age and my lack of experience. In 2011 through 2012, I was organizing with the movement Occupy Wall Street. 2012, Massachusetts AFL-CIO asked if I would give a speech for fair jobs during the Obama era. That was in the historic Faneuil Hall. 2016, I was hired as a regional director with the Massachusetts Teachers Association on their statewide ballot question of the charter schools, the vote no. And then in 2015 to 2017, I was living in Falmouth, Massachusetts on Cape Cod, and I was organizing non-union workers at Shaw supermarkets. I was able to obtain 45% of the non-union workforce to sign union authorization cards. Sadly, that did not work out because the summertime came and they shuffled all those workers around to other stores across Cape Cod in the Bourne area. I was hired in as post office in 2021. I was a branch delegate to the 2024 convention, so I had less than 3 years of experience, and I was at the 2024 convention. I'm also the admin for Corey Walton's From Aid Arbitration Reddit page, and I'm a coordinating committee member on the Builder Fighting NALC steering committee. So that's a little bit about me. I'm going to move over to Capone, and he could introduce himself.
My name is James Capone. I'm an 18-year letter carrier, branch president and steward out of branch 764, Dedham, Massachusetts.
My name is Chris Presampieri. I'm a 9-year letter carrier out of the Abington office. I am the legislative political director for branch 18. And we have our guest today with us. Matthew, if you want to give a little intro of who you are.
Yes, my name is Matt Stravidio. I'm a member of Branch 12, where I am a shop steward and the NBA rep. I've been a letter carrier for 24 years.
Right on. All right. So, I just wanted, we're going to open up with a little something today on the show. There was a newsletter that came out, maybe, I think, was it last month, I think? There were some words in it. And some things were called out. So before we get into it, I just want to give my opinions. Then we'll read from it here and there. All right. So I saw this article was written by a president within my region, not mentioning any names. But by this president's own admission, he started as a letter carrier back in 1992. Back in those days, public rallies were encouraged. An actual leader, President Vincent Sombretto, was their leader who called for and won an illegal strike in 1970. All workers in 1992 were on the same wage table. All workers were career employees. All workers had cheap and high-quality health insurance. And all workers could easily put away 5% on their TSP. And also, all carriers got full COLAs. And as any kid from the Boston area knew, if you wanted to get a great union job with great pay in Boston, You either got a job with the MBTA driving a train or a bus, or you got a job at the post office. That's back when the president joined. That's where he started. Now we live in the upside down world, where our union leader, President Renfro, calls management harassing us and violating our contract over stationary events an inconvenience. Rallies are discouraged. A $7 an hour pay cut in 2013 was a union concession that was given to management that created a two-tier wage system. Over 75% of the carriers were at one point a non-career, and almost half are non-career now. Unlike the clerks, the vast majority of us do get diet colas. A career letter carrier starts at $24.14 an hour, and a career clerk starts at $27 an hour. We have many workers who can't afford the health insurance. We have the lowest amount of workers contributing to their TSPs because they can't afford to pay that in their rent. Workers are leaving the union because our leadership couldn't even win them a living wage. We have carriers who are living in their cars, carriers who are on the overtime list who still have to live at home in high-cost areas or have 65% of their pay go towards rent. In this letter, this president is going to talk about a divide in the union, which I agree. There is definitely a divide. But where he and I are going to disagree is over who created that divide. I will blame the out-of-touch union bureaucracy and management. The president will blame us, the letter carriers, who rejected a poverty wage and the gutting of our rights on the job. At no point in his letter does he address that we have carriers working 14 hours a day. He will not bring up how our uniform allowance goes up only $14 extra a year, while the cost of all uniforms have gone up 100%. The President Renfro does not even think you and I are worth a pair of new socks. Neither will you hear what he thinks about having a two-tier wage system nor an all-career workforce. He will use buzzwords and talk about how disloyal we are to his union and how he knows so much more than us about what life is like in 2025 because he's been here for so long. Tens of thousands of carriers like me and John Murphy have lost years towards our actual retirement because we were CCAs. I lost 3.5 that I'll have to make up when I'm in my 60s. The starting wage back in 1992, when this president started, was around the equivalent of about $30 an hour, adjusted for inflation, with full colas, big raises, and almost 100% health insurance coverage, and I'm sure an almost all-career workforce. So let me read this letter and stop off at a few points. So let me just read this. This is it. Divided we stand. After the hustle and bustle of the holiday season, it is nice to finally sit back and reflect on the year that has just passed. In 2024, we've had to endure the usual BS from management that we always do. More discipline, more grievances, more undertime, more policy that is enforced for a month, then forgotten as they move on to another, more adjustments, joint or otherwise, more staffing issues falling on the side of either too much or not enough, and just overall low morale across the board throughout the Postal Service. But upon reflection, the most disappointing part of 2024 for me was the realization of just how divided our union has become and the actions of some of our members nationally to divide it even further. The definition of the word union is, quote, a club, society, or association formed by people with a common interest. Based on what I've seen, read, and heard, the membership of the NALC no longer shares a common interest or purpose. We have been infiltrated by the, in all caps, woke cancel culture, whose sole purpose is to circumvent our national constitution and bylaws to push their own agenda and spread their own propaganda within our union. Question for the group: what do you guys think? Do you share this president's feeling?
So, it just kind of drives me crazy that you have a group of younger carriers when the whole mission of the NALC should be to get these carriers involved and learning the way. You have a group of carriers, younger carriers, older carriers. Interest in this union is higher than I've seen since I've been here in 18 years. There are so many people getting involved in learning, and to then call them divisive and have issues with them. First off, the TA lost by 60,000 plus votes. That doesn't seem like a small majority to me. That seems like there was a lot of carriers upset. And the fact that you'd prefer to silence these carriers instead of letting them get involved, teaching them the way and all that stuff, I don't get. And to call a group divisive when their group was complaining about the contract and 60,000 members voted doesn't seem like it's a small divisive group. It seems like a change in the wind.
Yep, I would agree. John, any thoughts?
Oh, sorry. I lost the audio option. I moved the screen over. Yeah, I'm just actually reading this now. This newsletter says, we have been infiltrated by the woke cancel culture whose sole purpose is to circumvent our national constitution and bylaws, to push their own agenda and spread their own propaganda to divide our union. I want to say that as someone that's part of the BFN, the Bill to Fighting NALC steering committee, I think what happened was a lot of people on table 2 knew that this union, the NALC, was actually divided. But once this tentative agreement came out, people on table 1 actually fully realized that there is such a separation between the table 1 thought of mind or train of mind and the table 2 train of mind of like table 2 is like, yo, we gotta fight. We gotta like rebuild our union. And table 1 the whole time was like, oh, this is great. Like, you got a union, you should be thankful. And we're down here like, yeah, we could go and work in AC for the same amount of money. Like, that union contract's not worth what it used to be. So this tentative agreement came out, and I think a lot of people in the leadership positions, from the branch level to the regional level to all the way to the national level, realized that they've been asleep at the wheel for so long that it finally caught up to them. So it's not we're not trying to divide. We're actually reforming our union. Our voices are finally being heard. For so long, we have been told, wait, your time will come. Wait, your time will come. And this tentative agreement came around, and all those people that have been waiting said, where's my turn? Where's my line? Like, that line doesn't exist anymore. I know I've only been here for 3 years, but you talk to anyone that's on the table 2 pay scale, and it's like they made more money when they were a CCA than they are when they're a regular. They're still trying to catch up to that take-home pay. So the only division is the old guard, who's pro-Renfro, trying to block and silence anyone that's new. You see it on a branch level all the time. You hop on social media, you go to conventions, you go to trainings, and you talk to someone, and it's like they have resistance. They're afraid to actually fully speak because they know if they speak out of line that they get pushed aside. So I think if the new guard who's actually trying to reform our union, to rebuild our union, is woke and cancel culture, I want someone on the national level to explain how in 1970, 1 out of 3 workers in this country were unionized, and right now we have less than 10% of the workforce. And if we take it down to the private sector only, in the country, only 7% of the workforce, 7 out of 100 people in the United States are unionized. How did they allow themselves, with one of the biggest labor unions in the country, to allow our labor movement to die? And I have 30 years left. So if I'm being divisive, whatever, if that's how you view me, step aside, because I have 30 years and I got to make sure I have a retirement. I'm living paycheck to paycheck, and this is not okay. This is not okay. So that's my thoughts.
I will say, John, as a table 1 carrier, we did recognize the split, a lot of us. But I will tell you that there's never been a cohesive unit. One of my best friends, he lost 6 years of CCA pay, and he ain't getting it back. He's older carrier. I mean, that's 6 years is really important. We all knew it was bad, but you had 5 or 6 guys that were table 1 that had an issue against hundreds of thousands that wouldn't vote. You had groups in the office, but there was no movement leading them. There was no people saying. The amount of carriers I heard that said, no, I've never actually voted on a contract. They send it to me, I take it. You know, or even understand how the process worked fully. You're finally seeing a movement of people getting involved, and that's what's important. On top of it, hasn't there always been divisive people throughout history? When you had the founding fathers coming to get this country together, there were divisive people in the room. That's how we came up with the rules. When unions were created, you had divisive people in a room discussing what the rules should be.
Yeah.
Divisiveness creates greatness.
Divisiveness
it forces you to move forward.
There was a huge divide in the labor movement. Currently, most people don't realize this or know about it because we actually don't teach labor history in our union, which is kind of sad. When I was with the Carpenters Union, the first 6 months, we had to do training classes every 6 months, and one of the first trainings was labor history, like to actually understand why you are a union member, right? Like you should be fucking proud to be a union member. And one of the things you learn is AFL-CIO back in the day was actually two separate labor federations. That was not just one big federation. There was two different ideologies back in the early 20th century.
And AFL historically had the worst one. Very anti-immigrant at one point. Very much, we don't want any certain people. We don't want, they didn't organize Chinese workers, women, black workers. No, it was the CIO that was far better. Yeah, good point.
So the CIO came around, which you could kind of say is like, on the NALC standpoint, is like the Build a Fighting NALC, right? The CIO was like the woke culture, right? Like the CIO came around and said, no, we're going to organize black workers. We're going to organize women. We're going to organize everyone that we possibly can, because a strong union is the only way forward, not a segregated union. And the AFL was like, nah, man, this is how we do it. And they're like, no, we're going to do it our way because your way is not working. And every major gain, majority of the major gains that we benefit right now came from the CIO. That theory of we need to break down all the barriers and open up the labor movement for all. And that is what we're trying to do with Build a Fighting NALC. We're trying to take the power from the top of our leadership and spread it down to the rank and file. Every education platform in our union should be down to the membership. We should be able to access, go online, go on Zoom meetings. We should be able to do everything possible to become a better educated workforce and a union member. So, yeah.
Matt, any thoughts?
I just wanted to say that in the 24 years that I've been in the NALC, that this shutting down this tentative agreement is probably the most pro-union thing that we have done since in the whole 24 years I've been in it, by far. And I'm just proud that we had, groups like the BFN and the CLC, and most particular Corey Walton, Matt Dover, Richie Ray, and all those guys that were able to spread the word. And if it wasn't for them, there's a good chance that if it wasn't for them and the CLC and BFN, there's a good chance that this crappy tentative agreement could have possibly passed. And I'm just so happy that we were finally able to step up and fight for what we were owed, and definitely the no vote for sure.
Yeah, I'll be honest too. Like, if it wasn't for those podcasts, it finally gave voice to, I think, what a lot of us were feeling at the same time. I really, I'm like, finally, someone's saying how I feel here. Like, I'm not the only person. This is bad, and finally I could do everything. John is dropping some news. Sorry, I can't. Oh my God. Yeah. We can talk about that next.
And with what you're saying is, I have a great region that does have educational classes. I think there are more that could be available, but there are regions that don't have any education. And before I even became a rep, listening from Ava to arbitration when I was vice president and learning the ropes, I was able to access that more and understand how things went. And again, that's the whole purpose of this, to then go after those groups. Shouldn't we all be trying to work to get this shit straight and better? And if you have one side that's teaching education and helping reps move forward, why wouldn't you go to them and say, well, what are you doing that maybe we can bring over here? And this group, again, it creates greatness to have these groups discussing and arguing and coming up with better ideas, to then come out and just try to poo-poo it all and divisive and, F these guys. It just does not make sense.
So let me go back. Let me just do this for the article. So I'm going to define some terms for the president too that he used. I'm going to define woke: alert to and concerned about social justice and discrimination, cancel culture, a social environment in which publicly boycotting or withdrawing support for people, organizations regarded as promoting socially acceptable beliefs is widespread practice. Also, he claims that we circumvented the national constitution. Let me define circumvent. Find a way around. As far as I can tell, we actually followed the national constitution to the letter, and that's why we could bring up on charges. That was the whole point. We have a right to do it, and we exercise that right. The National Convention is the highest ranking body of our union. So I don't know where he gets off trying to say that we did this, but let me continue his article. We can look no further than our national officers as to where this divide began. As president of this branch, I have had more opportunities than most of our rank and file members to witness this divide while attending national conventions, national rap sessions, and national trainings. These officers have used their positions to openly form or join separate coalitions such as the CLC or BFN to push their own agenda to the membership. So let me just stop him right there. Now, this was written before the TA was rejected, but now this agenda that we are all running on was supported by 71% of the active members. The rejection was so bad that the president actually started doing open bargaining that we requested and won him to do. So let me just go over the woke cancel culture platform that BFN is promoting, and I want to see where the problem is here. So these are the demands of Build a Fighting NALC. Open bargaining, which apparently we won. Full COLA, not Diet Cola. $30 an hour starting wage. End mandatory overtime. An all-career workforce. Cut top pay from 13 years to 6 years. Workers' wage for union officers. And the right to strike. Does anyone in this chat have a problem? Is that bad? Does anyone have a feeling about this? Is that bad?
Nope.
Didn't think so. No. So that's what we're going up against. I mean, like I said, at no point does he actually mention what the problems of our platform were. He doesn't read it. They just view any attack on what they think is best for us because they know better than us. How dare we question them? Last I checked, we're still allowed to criticize the president who we pay a salary for. I pay dues. I will say anything I want about my leadership at all. And to say that we're being disloyal, I'm just shocking. But does anyone have any takes on this?
The disloyal really gets me and really bothers me. You're calling a group of people disloyal who are looking for better for them and their coworkers. They're trying to fight for better things, and just completely tone deaf and not understanding what's going on, and it drives you nuts.
So I just want to bring this up too. So sometimes we get people who are like, why are people like this fighting so hard against us? Like, why is it their dedication to try to go after us here? And I'm going to need a quote from the revolutionary Tony Cliff when he was talking about the 1926 general strike in the United Kingdom in order to explain why we are being fought at every level from the local to national level. So I use the term union bureaucracy. So what does actually a union bureaucracy mean? And I think he gives a great definition. Basically, the bureaucracy balances between two main classes in capitalist society, the employers and the workers. The trade union officials are neither employers nor workers. The union official does not suffer like the massive workers from low wages, being pushed around by the employers, job security, and so on. The trade union bureaucracy is a distinct, basically small c conservative social formation. Like the god Janus, it presents two faces. It balances between the employers and the workers. It holds back and controls worker struggle, but has a vital interest not to push the collaboration with the employers and state to a point where it makes the unions almost completely impotent. If the union fails to challenges to the leadership, or if the union fails entirely to articulate members' grievances, this will lead eventually to either effective internal challenges to the leadership or to membership apathy and organizational disintegration, with members moving to a rival union. If the union bureaucracy strays too far into the boss's camp, it will lose its base. The bureaucracy has an interest in preserving the union organization, which is the source of their income and their social status. The trade union official balances between different sections of the union's own membership. He keeps in check the advanced sections of the union who are the more active and rebellious by relying on those who are more passive, apathetic, or ignorant. The official also strengthens his hold on the union by blending it into other unions. The presence of many different unions in an industry, and therefore the difficulty of organizing total united action, provides officials of each with a convenient alibi of their inactivity. So this explains, in my opinion, what the problem is. We have four different unions within our industry. They all won't come together, and they all go, well, we do it, but the rural carriers won't do it, or the mail handlers won't do it. They don't like the the rebellious type. They want to rely on the people not to do anything, stay home, don't go to don't rally, don't speak out, don't go to the media, don't let in this guy, don't go to the podcast. This is in their nature. They just want to be almost partners with membership, not too much. Renfro can't go out. It's almost like, and I know Corey Walton made this, but it feels like he delayed this tentative agreement so long so that the post office will save money this whole time. Because, and like I said, this is just my feeling. I'm not saying I have any proof on it, but it almost feels like they're trying to be partners with management when they're not looking out for the carriers who are sleeping in their cars or making $19.33 an hour. That's the whole thing. But, and as Moline did point out in the last episode, if we really want to make a change, it starts with the rank and file level. And Capone's saying we need to educate the next generation. We need to be out there every Sunday talking to CCAs in parking lots, telling them that they should be getting $30 an hour because those get very big responses. So let me continue on with this newsletter, and I'll wrap it up soon. This type of crap was on full display at our national convention this past August in Boston. It was here that I had to witness two of our national officers who had filed charges against our national president, who were not satisfied with the decision of the Executive Council, waste 2 days of the convention floor's time to try and push through an agenda by rehashing charges, and then trying to have the membership usurp the Executive Council's decision by having the membership vote. Why? Because they have laid the groundwork of dividing our union, and we're hoping they had enough support on their side to overturn the Executive Council's decision instead of aiding the process set forth in the National Constitution. They will tell you it's their right to do it this way. I will tell you that they accomplished dividing the union membership. These officers will stand in front of you and tell you that we have to be united and stand together to fight a common cause. But actions speak louder than words, and their actions were anything but unified. Of all the national conventions I've attended in my 32-year career, this was the most divided I've ever seen the NALC, and to be honest, it made me sick to my stomach. Whatever happened to brotherhood, to unionism, to loyalty? How are we supposed to stand together to fight our common foe of our postal management when our leaders and members want to fight with each other? So just to explain what they wanted, the bureaucracy is fine with us working 15-hour days, a joke of a uniform allowance, a 40-cent per year raise, and a starting wage of $20 an hour, less than what Subway down the street is offering, a 2-tier wage system, and a massive non-career workforce. These people actually think they're helping too. That's the sad part. This guy, if he still carries, makes almost double what the guy at the bottom makes. These people have spent too much time with management and other union bureaucrats. And apparently speaking out against what 71% of us knew to be a complete sellout of a TA is a bad thing. Last I heard, it's okay to disagree with the president and our leadership when it comes to our pay and our benefits. We aren't the German labor front of the 1930s. My question, why bother having a union if no one should try to educate our coworkers on what we should be making? What should we see in a TA? The fact that what was offered to us was a complete slap to the face. He tells people to educate themselves, and when 60,000 members do just that, they vote against his TA, and he says we're splitting the union. Hate speak. I don't even know what to say about that. Pretty sure the CLC didn't call for the extermination of any minority groups. It goes on for a few more paragraphs in this letter about what he does, and I'm sure that he does really do a good job defending the members. I'm not saying he's not. I'm sure he does great. But this union leadership has not been on the offensive since 1999, back when Limp Bizkit was still making records. The harder work means higher pay campaign was a great campaign that won us a great pay boost and helped our union out greatly. The APWU, our sister union, went on the offensive to stop Staples in 2014, taking on their work with direct actions and won. And that was done with the support of the national APWU, organizing protests and using their political action fund money to pressure politicians to support them. Meanwhile, we have the literal opposite with the NALC leadership. People like us are called divisive, and as one president called Capone and I recently, troublemakers. Well, I do have news for the bureaucracy. We are troublemakers for you. We stand for living wages, excellent benefits, and a retirement that will take care of you after we have dedicated our lives to the Postal Service. We're not going to eat the scraps that you and management gave us, and thank you for it. We're coming after the entire bakery. We are the woke carriers, and come 2026, BFN and CLC will cancel your friendship with management. Thanks. All right.
The thing I don't understand is he says 2 executive staff members, and it's about the charges during the convention, but the majority said they wanted to hear it.
Hmm.
That doesn't seem like a small group, and it wasn't just 2 members.
No.
It was 2 members that were asked to give their side of the charges by the body. And as we were told, the Constitution gives the body the right to do that. The body chose to do it, and it asked those 2 executive members to get up and stay their side of the case. So I don't understand the 2 members. Well, no, it was majority of the body.
Yes, exactly. And during the convention, was Charlie Miller, I believe, went up and asked for the televote too, and that televote told that the majority of the body there wanted to hear those charges.
Yeah, I don't know what's usurping about that, right? That's the
And
process.
you don't hear people. You hear people angry that the charges weren't brought forward, but you're not hearing people complain about it. The situation. They asked to have a vote taken. They agreed to hear the charges. The vote went the way it was.
Yep.
And the group was happy that the process worked the way it's supposed to work.
Exactly.
To then be mad on the other side that process was even used, why don't you take a book from the people that said, okay, well, this is how it works. It went through the process. No charges were heard. That is what happened.
Right. Like I said, I don't see why he's all upset about this because the vote went the way he wanted, but we have the right to do that. Like, that's the whole, I'm sorry it took 2 days, but that's the democratic process. Clearly enough people felt that way.
It didn't take 2 days. It took, they broke up these charges and separate sessions. I believe it was 3 different sessions that these charges were broken up into. It took maybe 1 day tops. And the first charge, the neglect of charge, it took a while. The other charge was the actions against James Henry. That didn't take very long. And neither did the third charge, which is the one I should have thought he should have been found guilty of because he pretty much admitted his guilt. But the membership chose a different way, and that's what it is.
Yeah. So, and like I said, this is just one letter. There's plenty more. I know other branches have had, like I said, we're not naming names. We're not doing that because a lot of presidents, present company excluded, of course, really are just really bought in on this. And it's the same, almost like the same talking points. Oh, everyone's going to make their own decision. Don't influence anybody. Like, we have free speech in this country, and we are allowed, last I checked, to try to convince our members with our ideas that, yes, you deserve a living wage. Yes, you should have good health insurance. If that's divisive, I am Captain Divisive then, because that's what it used to be. There was, I think there was a gap. The gap in the 80s was like a $4,000 between first and last step. Now the gap is what, $24,000? Like, it's insane how bad things are getting. And the fact that we're trying to do rallies and bring attention to this is just pissing them off. Like, and now that he, Renfro obviously could read the room. I'm not saying he ain't a dumb guy. I'll say that about him. He knew smart enough now we're going to fight like hell. For 520 days, there was no fighting like hell. There was, shh, keep quiet, keep your head down, don't say anything. And now, we're getting news that we're going to have to be fighting probably pretty soon. But, at least better late than never. And here's the thing, I will help fight. I'll help him with that campaign. He's voted out in 2026 because I want a good contract. I will be there with President Renfro at those rallies, and I'll be the first to vote against him being taken out of office in 2026. So I'll defend you for about a year and a half. Then you're out, bud. That's it. That's all you're going to get me for.
The thing with the whole TA, it drives me nuts because it was bad for everybody.
Yeah.
Table 2 has gotten the stiff end for a while. The raises weren't good for the beginning. Even us top step Table 1 guys, in a lot of these areas, the pay doesn't work. Next door to me, I'm 45 minutes out from the city. Place next door to me is 3-bedroom. It's over $3,000 a month.
Oh.
With utilities that you have to pay, utilities another $1,000. That's $4,000 a month. That's not a mansion. And that is relatively decently priced compared to some areas. You see 2 bedrooms that are going for $2,500.
Yep.
as a top scale guy, when you're here for 15, 16 years, and at this point, you should be able to be putting your money aside, buying properties. Like, that is the carriers I grew up with that worked hard and could succeed. Your overtime was for vacations.
Yes.
We're in a position now, even the top scale guys, where we are working overtime to survive. So for the younger carriers, what does it lead to? What do you have to work to? You're going to work for 15 years to hit top space sales to still not be able to afford your shit?
Right.
The contract was bad straight through all the way.
Yep.
The matter of how the economy has expanded, how expensive things got, rents and everything, to not even succeed in that. I want the carriers that I grew up with, the guys that could survive. And there's been many answers to try to figure this out. They talked about regional colas because, you know what, in the other areas of this country, the top scale is what you need. You can go on vacations. You can have a family at top scale in certain areas of this country. In other areas, New England, California, good luck. What is there to work for? Majority of these carriers are in these urban areas, these expensive cities they can't afford to live in. The amount of senior carriers, not rookies, not beginners, that are quitting the job, guys with more than 6-7 years in, is more than ever has happened in the Postal Service. That guys are here for 10 years and go, shit, I can't afford this. I have to go start over somewhere else. You're losing veteran carriers. And then you're trying to shoehorn carriers that you don't want to pay so they have no future into that spot like we're goddamn Walmart cashiers. That you're just expecting turnover. This isn't a turnover company. This is a career. This is a service that you build a career on. Not burn kids out in fucking 2 years and move on and put somebody else in that spot. That isn't providing our mission to provide a service to the customers, the American public, and it's not doing good for us. And it's not doing good for the look of the service. You know how many customers see us on the street and there's a new person carrying the route every 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
And the person who's carrying the route doesn't look at it like a career. So some of them are looking at it like, hey, there's a job to get through. I'm not going to focus too much on how to do this job because I don't plan on being here. How is that a credit to the American public? That is what this job is for. This isn't a fucking business. This is a service. And to have guys working here that have no future, the guys who have been here that want to have a life, all looking for a way out so that you can put more management guys at higher positions to fucking start social media campaigns. I have commercials on my Facebook now for the post office, fucking scanners. Custodians now have to use scanners to tell what jobs they are doing throughout the day.
What?
So that we can have more idiots higher and higher up in this company making hundreds of thousands of dollars to do less and less. Bring back the days of Postmaster Marvin, Carvin Marvin, who cut management jobs. That is how you save this company. And that is how you get the carriers the pay they need and make it a career it is and turn this fucking business around.
God damn. Yeah. All right. We got a clip for the show, John. All right. That was good. Exactly. Everything. Matt, you were going to say something. Sorry.
I'm sorry if I cut him off, but no, I was just saying, and with those carriers, nothing against them, but that live in, places in the country where the top pay scale wage, you can get vacations and everything that James just mentioned. Not here in New England where, we're living paycheck to paycheck. Those are the votes that we did not see in this last TA. Like, those are, where the 50,000 people that did not vote probably live. And, that's pretty much all I want to say about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and like I said, this was a job not too long ago where you got a job at the post office, you're all set. Like, you're good. You're good to go. Like, what do you got to worry about? And like I said, overtime was for like buying a jet ski or something crazy. Like I had a friend of mine, his mom worked at the post office, and they had a pretty nice, modest home. The father, I like the dad. The dad was a fun guy. employment was always kind of iffy with them, but like she was the breadwinner, and they got, and he had a pretty good childhood. We got to go to sport. Like it wasn't a struggle like it is now. But you work. I mean, I'll be honest. Like when I was getting married, weddings are expensive.
Yep.
I was working overtime. I had to sell my blood to help pay for literally my blood went into my wedding to pay for it. I had to sell my platelets like every 2 weeks, even though, then the person doing it, she goes, I'd go in uniform. She's like, you're not the only letter carrier I see come here to sell their blood. Like, that's how bad we are getting with this job now. And that's what this president and all the people who are the table one people, and not saying all table one people are bad. There's definitely some great people who are table one people, but some of these people just, like, some of them deny that people live in their cars. Like, I think one of you told me about that. Like, oh, no one lives in their cars. That's impossible. How do you work full time? No, then you're just bad at managing money. It's like, no,
Chris,
it's not.
Even at top scale in certain areas, you qualify for housing.
Yeah.
For working for the post office. There are carriers I know that are getting government services because their paycheck is under what you need to survive in certain areas.
Yep.
And people don't realize that that's why the 1970 strike happened, was because there are carriers on welfare.
Yeah.
And they said there should never be a carrier on welfare. Well, guess what, baby? The carriers are back on welfare. And we're not doing anything about it.
I kind of want to pivot this because we're all speaking in circles at this point because everyone knows we're making poverty wages, except for a few people that are in denial, right?
This guy who wrote the letter is one of them.
But when was that newsletter was written before the vote results, right?
It was
okay.
Yeah.
Maybe. But like, if anyone's paying attention to like unions, right? This is not new. Special interests went after the teachers' unions decades ago, right? They came out saying, "Oh, they get paid too much, right? Like they only work 9 out of the 12 months. Oh, they only work like 2 hours of actual work." Like through the decades, they've chipped away at the image of what a teacher is, right? Like a teacher used to be a dignified career, but now most states, it has been chipped away where it's not dignified anymore. Like every day they're out there fighting for the bare essentials. And you have charter schools creeping in, you have the voucher system creeping in, you have school choice creeping in. It's an octopus with tentacles, right? They're on that public education fund. And they want to privatize it, right? Like they want to slowly chip it away. And then, like, as we see, they're trying to get rid of the Department of Education. So this has been going around for decades now. And if you actually paid attention, if our leadership actually paid attention up on the national level, we are part of the AFL-CIO. So when we're getting attacked, it didn't start with like Jeff Bezos was going to buy Amazon. It started 20 years ago when they created the 2-tier system, when this went from a career down to a midlife crisis, or someone that's just like, all right, I'm going to apply to another job, but this is just a temporary position. That is when the attacks started. It's not starting now. It has the groundwork, the foundation of privatizing the post office has been laid, and it has been getting built for years now. And I've only been here for 3 years, but like Capone said, and like everyone says, it's like the service is absolute junk right now. You have a carrier every 2 years changing routes. You have CCAs coming in one day, quitting the next day. Our retention rate is 80%. And that's just the carrier side. Look at the APWU side. You hear horror stories with people go to the counter and they get verbally abused, like both ways, right? The customer gets abused by the worker, then the worker gets abused by the customer. Like the post office used to be a dignified career. Yep. And it's the same thing that happened to the teachers. They got special interests came and made them look like they're fat, lazy, greedy union members. And it's the same thing that's happening to the Postal Service. They're going to start saying, oh, they have a good retirement system. You don't. Oh, they get paid this. You don't. They're all our benefits, all our healthcare systems, they're going to start using that against us. And I want to go back to the part where we're the woke culture and we're dividing. But does anyone actually trust Renfro to fight Trump when it comes to taking down the Postal Service. It is currently Thursday, February 20th, 8:37 p.m. And the breaking news is, that was from 45 minutes ago, Trump is taking control of the USPS. He is firing the Postal Board of Governors. He is literally going to go in there and dismantle this service. And do we honestly trust Renfro or anyone national to actually mobilize the members, to actually put up a real fight to defend the service? No. Do we actually expect him to defend the membership? No. He's going to turn around and say, I'll make concessions. Let's play nice.
Right.
And that is the mentality of the business unionism. And that is why these people are saying we're being divisive, is because the new generation of carriers are also the new generation of union members. We're not just in the letter carrier craft. We're in the APWU craft. We're in the teachers unions. We're in the Teamsters. We're in the UAW. These reform movements are not spontaneous. We have been beaten down for decades now. We had the recession. We had COVID. We had fucking Y2K back in the day. Like, we have been beaten down decade after decade, and the system, the union bureaucracy system, is not working. The UAW, they reformed their union within 2 years. The Teamsters union reformed their union within 2 years, and they went on one of the most resounding stand-up. It wasn't even a strike, but they won a ton of, won back a bunch of their concessions that they gave up. The teachers unions, they are all across the country. They're reforming their unions. They're going on wildcat strikes and winning. The only illegal strike is a failed strike. You don't go on strike until you're confident enough to make sure you don't get fired. And the teachers are proving that. And it's not just the labor movement right now in the city letter carrier craft. You have the rural carriers. They're trying to decertify themselves. Like, the whole labor movement right now is breaking off from the old guard and moving forward in a new direction. And that is one of the things that the labor movement needs to acknowledge. And I'm talking about the labor movement with the suits and ties. Because what's going to happen in the next couple of days is Renfro, Mark Damenstein, and the rest of these postal union officials are going to start making concessions to Trump. And the workers are going to get fucked over. We saw it in 2013, and people said, oh, we didn't see this coming. How the fuck did we not see that shit coming when the recession was only a couple of years before that? So, of course, they're going to use the shock of an economic crisis to cut our benefits. That's the whole idea of privatizing the Postal Service. I don't want to keep going on this rant, but my phone is blowing up with text messages from people across the country about this whole thing about Trump taking over the post office. It's not even just the letter carrier craft, it's the entire service. We are a public good. We're not supposed to make a profit. So anything that is happening now, it has happened before with the public school system. And anyone that actually cares about our careers, this is not a job. This is a career. I'm 37 years old. I cannot find another job. I'm going to fight like fucking hell to make sure Trump does not privatize us. But people need to get active. And our followers on this podcast are slowly growing. We're growing at probably 5 to 10 subscribers a day across all the platforms, which I think is pretty good. But everyone that's listening, they need to all step up. The union is not your branch president. The union is not Brian Renfro. We are the union. It's our union. It's like a church group. We pay dues. We pay a membership fee. We need to shape our union to how we want it. And one of the biggest things is we want a fighting union. You want a leader. We want a leader that will actually take on Trump. We want a leader that will take on the Postmaster General DeJoy, who just got fired. We want someone that's like, yo, this is a service, not a business, and we're going to fight you tooth and nail for everything. And one of the things that we need to actually have a serious discussion on, and I'm very adamant on this, is at this point in time, we need to admit that we need one big union. We need to merge with the rural carriers. It is beneficial for our career. But who is it not beneficial for?
the suits and ties, the labor bureaucracy. Does anyone think any business agent will step down and go back to carrying mail? No. Does anyone think anyone that's earning $200,000 a year is going to give up that title to go back to their craft position? It doesn't matter if it's the mail handlers. It doesn't matter if it's the city carriers. The suits and ties are going to make every excuse on why we should not merge as a union. But in the end, one strong, big union benefits the membership because strength is in numbers. And I gave this example all the time is everyone knows what a pencil looks like, all right? So you get a pencil, you can break it. Get 12 pencils. You can't break 12 pencils. Our strength is in our numbers. We are the labor movement, and we got to move. Right now, labor is not moving. And the whole idea that Trump is going to dismantle, I'm literally reading Brian Renfro's thing right now. It says, hell no to dismantling the Postal Service. And it's like, do we honestly trust Brian Renfro? No, none of us trust him. We do not trust him to even put up a fight. We laugh about that. And then all the business agents, where are the business agents? We vote them in. They don't work for Renfro. They work for us. And every business agent that has been quiet for the past 700 days needs to get voted out. And they need to be held accountable. They should be all up for re-election. And I'm not CLC and I'm not Mike Cariff. I support anyone that's going to change the system because I have 30 fucking years here, along with many other people. And we need to actually start fighting. And we're over here talking on a podcast about the contract, right? Dude, that's minuscule when it's talking about our career. And we have branch presidents talking about being divisive. And the episode of this podcast title is going to be the Townies. And it's if you've ever seen The Town with Ben Affleck, he goes in and says, hey, I need you to come help me. And the dude's like, where and when? I'm on that. That's who we need. That is what we need. We need that attitude. We are all union members. We need to be arm in arm. If someone says, hey, there's a fight, we go. And at this point, we're heading towards arbitration, and we're going to start seeing people saying, oh, we fucked up. We should have taken those fucking scraps. We should have begged. We should have gone on our knees and apologized. We're going to start seeing branch presidents coming out. We're going to start seeing business agents. I've already heard of business agents telling other people that they fucked up for voting this down. There's the national leadership is going to start spinning it that we need to concede and make concessions. I hope I'm wrong, but business unionism has been around for decades, and it's always concessions. It's always concessions. So March 23rd and March 25th is a national day of action, and every branch president, every branch member should be mobilizing in solidarity with each other and making sure that we keep this a public service and a career. I don't want to keep hijacking, but God damn, my phone is blowing up, and I'm literally just a rank and file. This is 8:45 p.m. at night, and I do this just for the hobby of fucking labor. People watch sports. I don't know anything about sports, but if you want to talk labor, you can come to me. I could talk theory all day about fucking business unionism versus rank and file using. That's just like the Chiefs versus whoever just lost at the Super Bowl, or Eagles. The Eagles won. It's the same thing. People have their hobbies. This is my hobby. And I have a whole library back here if anyone actually wants to read history. We need to actually put up a fight. And we are going to start seeing tonight, going forward, because I'm going to publish this tonight, we're going to start seeing union bureaucracy start conceding to Trump. And we've seen it with other labor movements, like, oh, don't hurt us, we'll play nice with you. And it's like, that doesn't work. It doesn't work. It got us Trump 2.0. The conservatism, the ruling class does not give a fuck about the working class. No. An injury to one is an injury to all. And when one section of the working class gets injured, we all get injured.
And with that,
I'll let you go.
You're right, John. I mean, but here's the thing, like, this is where the letter carrier political fund, people need to be donating. It doesn't matter if it's Trump. It doesn't matter if it's fucking Biden. It doesn't matter who the fuck it is. if they come at us, we need to be able to fight to protect this service. It has been both sides that have been fucking gutting us left and right for 20, 40 years. The post office. They like borrowing from us when they need the money. They like screwing with our service. They force the retirement mandate to sink us so they can get more money in the accounts. Doesn't matter who it is. We need to be prepared to save the service. I understand some people don't like the letter carrier political fund. My stance is it's a dirty game. Politics is always dirty. Just the point of sending somebody to Washington to get a politician to look at the bill costs money. And we need to have our hand in the game. A lot of people don't understand that businesses can donate whatever the hell they want to whatever political campaign in the millions, whereas unions are stuck at not being able to donate money unless it's from a private account, which is why we have a little
money.
bit.
Yeah, dues can't be used for it. Yep, right on.
The amount of money that if every carrier donated $5 a paycheck could affect and really push these things and really get attention back into the service. Again, I don't play the politics, but the amount of times that politicians on both sides have absolutely fucked us. We need the letter carrier political fund. We need guys out there on those lines talking to the politicians, getting them on our bills. HR 70, Stephen Lynch just brought up to stop any privatization of the post office. Every carrier out there, that is your career. That is your life. $5 a paycheck is nothing compared to having this career for the rest of your life and being able to fight these things. And John is right. They're coming after us. And they'll always be coming after us. And there'll always be somebody who thinks they can do this the better way. I don't know how it works with Trump being able to fire the governor board. I don't know if there's a process. All I know is we need to be fighting these things legislatively. We need to be donating a letter carrier political fund. On top of that, we do need to be rallying. We do need to get the public support. There's 72% approval rating of the Postal Service. Now, back when I started, it was 90%, I believe. We've dropped that much.
Yeah.
But the public, still majority, loves us. We need to get out there and mobilize and let them see what's going on. Let them see that they're trying to cut your service every single step of the way. And we need to fight for it and make sure that it stays. The Postal Service was started in 1775. It is older than the country. To let politicians come in who have hampered us already make the decisions to get rid of us, to privatize us, to let another business take over, you will not get the service you get now if a business takes over, because they're going to cut delivery to certain areas. You're going to have to go to the post office to get your mail.
Yeah.
We all need to be donating a letter carrier political fund.
On the subject of like a business taking us over, it doesn't even have to be like that. We could look at we could look at Europe, right? It's still like quasi public private, right? Quote unquote.
Yeah, like the Royal Mail in England.
Yeah.
Right.
But they deliver mail only 4 days a week.
3 and others.
Yes.
3. Yeah.
So it's not like we're going to wake up to Jeff Bezos. We're going to wake up to the fact that they completely destroyed the service to subsidize Amazon, to subsidize Walmart. They use the infrastructure. We are the roads, we are the vehicles, and we are the bodies to give Jeff Bezos the profit to make a spaceship. We are the subsidy without giving them cash. They use our infrastructure. That is what privatization looks like. And even Jeff Bezos said that. One of the reasons why Amazon was so successful back in the day is because of the Postal Service. He came out and said that as a quote, that the reason why he got rich is because he used the Postal Service's infrastructure. And it's like, we allow these people to use us, right? We're a service. So that's what's going to happen. And then on regards to the political action fund, if anyone could afford to donate to it, donate it. $5 a paycheck is 2 comfort stops into our bathroom a week, right?
Take one for the team, folks. Just go in there. Just, help us out.
But
no, I mean, go on.
No, I want to rewind real quick.
one of the things I was doing back in the day, I think it was 2012, 2016, Bernie Sanders came out against Hillary, and all the unions were like, hey, we're going to endorse Hillary. And it's like these top-down endorsements, right? Like, if no one likes when their union tells them what to do. And especially when it comes to endorsing a political candidate, that is just crazy. So back when Bernie Sanders announced his first campaign, me and a couple others got together across the country and said, hey, let's create a labor for Bernie. That way, like, we slow down and stop these top-down endorsements for Hillary Clinton, which no one actually liked. And we ended up creating a movement inside the labor movement where the CWA and I believe the nurses union, they got rid of that infrastructure of top-down, where they actually started polling their memberships. And that's what's needed. And that's what we saw at the convention, right? It was a top-down endorsement for Kamala Harris. And everyone's like, when the fuck did we endorse this? And it's like, that's what needs to change, right? Like, our union needs to send out a ballot, a questionnaire, right? Of like, here's the candidates, who should we endorse, or should we just stand aside?
Why can't we just stand aside?
And that's my thing, right? It's just stand aside.
Either way, if Trump wins, we have to work with Trump. If Biden wins, we have to work with Biden. Why would you go out there and go after a politician to then have to maybe eat crow and work with said politician? Don't choose sides. On top of it,
it's not even that point.
Like, you wouldn't see the CIA say, we're for Trump or we're for Biden. You would never see we're service.
But it's not even on that point of view. It's just stand aside because you're just dividing your union, right? Like, working class issues are not part of any political party right now. So
yeah,
like, the Democratic Party is absolute garbage. Like, saying that Biden was the most pro-union candidate since FDR has the bar pretty fucking low at that.
The bar is in the basement for that.
Like, the bar is on the
members.
The bar is on the ground. So
I'll just say this too. Like, we need our own party. Like, Wall Street has two political parties, and we need one of our own, because neither one of these parties really are looking out for us. I mean, Obama called for ending Saturday delivery at one point too, which is an austerity cut. They could have the whole thing with the pre-funding mandate that went on for almost 16, 17 years. That's what bankrupted us.
Clinton.
It was George W. Bush 2006 was when it got passed through. But we were running a surplus, and now they intentionally, and that was at the behest of UPS and FedEx, because under capitalism, corporations don't like competition. The Postal Service does it because we don't have shareholders. We're not running for a profit. So we're impeding them from jacking up they could jack up the prices all they want because there's no public option. They want us gone, and Trump is serving what the private corporations want. I mean, if you remember during the pandemic, he thanked FedEx, he thanked UPS, DHL, except us. He didn't have the Postal Service thanking us at any point because at the same time, he was trying to privatize us. And this whole thing of firing the board of governors, now there's 4 vacancies. He can fill them legally. I don't know about him doing the whole firing the rest of the board. That was because back until 1970, election, you could just put all your friends in the post office, and that's how it used to be. So legally speaking, I don't know if he can do it. Not like he gives a shit about the law. President Musk doesn't care because Trump doesn't know what he's doing. He's not smart enough for this stuff. It's Musk. Musk wants this. It's $80 billion that we go through, and they want to sell. And like I said, you can't make a profit off a public service. So they want it to be privatized. Package delivery is the most lucrative. They want to take that from us. The mail doesn't make that much money. They don't care. But some guy from Mississippi, I think, a representative there, says like, oh, we can have private corporations do the mail sorting and we can get rid of the union workforce because they want us all on our hands and knees working for minimum wage with no health benefits. That's their goal. They don't care about workers. And that's why we need our own workers' party. So I'm sorry. Like, the chance for the Democrats and Republicans to stand up for us, I'm sorry. You had your chance. I mean, I'll give credit when credit's due. Biden did some good things when it came to repealing the PAEA, the pre-funding mandate, and we have 6-day delivery enshrined in law. Those are 2 things. I'll give him credit for that. But he didn't actually fix fundamentally us losing money. He didn't go after management because we do need to trim the fat in the post office. There are way too many managers who do do nothing all day. We do all the work. Us, the clerks, the engineers, the technicians. The letter carriers, we do the actual work that produces all the services. But those people who sit in offices, who, send out, write little messages on our scanners, they need to go. And that should have been done a long time ago. And now we got this guy. It's like if you had cancer, you need a doctor, but you don't need Dr. Kevorkian to help fix you. You need a real doctor who's going to care. But, that's my 2 cents.
I've heard an interesting theory, and, a couple of carriers mentioned this, that they would welcome Doge to come in because the idea that they would fire upper management. Now, I don't know if Doge would do that, but I would love to see a company or a group look at what these guys do at the higher level of post office.
Right.
Look at the fat you can trim up there,
right,
and see what happens. Because I believe, I forgot where I read the stat. I believe it was from 2006 to 2011. The post office cut 34% rural jobs, 20% carrier, blah, 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 but created 50% more management positions.
Jesus.
They had taken the workers and moved them to this platform, and that's when we started getting the MDD scanners. That's when we started getting the commercial. We now have a group that the post office hires that goes through our social medias pages to see what we're saying about the post office.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They have a hired group to watch their own employees on social media, to watch social media for when the post office is being discussed. Again, we are a service. We are no different than any other government service. To think that a government service would do that is insane.
Right.
Why are
like
you
if
wasting
the
money
firefighter,
there?
right? Like if the firefighter said, "Hey, there were 20 house fires, and we put out 12, and we saved you a lot of money by letting 8 burn down," that'd be insane. It's like you said, it's a service. It's not there to generate profit. Just like, like the firefighters are there to do a public service. We need them. They cost money. That's insane to do this. But like I said, there have been they don't want. And also, the Postal Regulatory Commission is supposed to set rates so we break even. Why aren't they doing their job? Like, that's the whole point. They're the ones who are tasked with making sure we just break even. But the if you look at the board of directors of the post office, they're all lobbyists, all of them. They're former lobbyists for all the big corporations. So they don't want, they're real employers, which is Wall Street. They don't want higher rates, so we're going to run into the red each time. And they're going to blame you and me and every worker who does stuff as we're the problem. Ugh.
And you're right about that, Chris. I mean, it's insane that the people that are our competitors are also the ones deciding what we charge for rates. And I will say this, people argue left and right, but if the stamp became $1 10 years ago, this will set my age back. I remember buying bags of chips for $0.25. That bag of chips is now $1. A soda was 50 cents. That soda's $1.25 now. The newspaper, goddamn, that was $0.25. I think it's $2.50 now.
What's a newspaper?
Yeah. The stamp has not barely moved up. If we went to $1, most people would not have cared or thought about it. It's $1. Stamp's $1. Makes sense. What it affects is the big businesses, the ones that are sending out thousands, millions. That little increase to the customer that sends a letter every 6 months isn't a big change. It's to the big businesses. It's to the Amazons. It's to the third-class mailers. It's to the shipping magistrates, Peaky Bowens, all these companies. It's them that are making those decisions to make sure our rates are lower so they can get a better deal while at the same time starving us out.
All right. Well, that was some good news updates. All right. We covered that.
Well, it would be pretty fucking great though if Renfro came out and just repeated most of what we just said.
Wouldn't it be great?
If he came out,
he cites us by name, these guys from Massachusetts said some really cool stuff.
No, if Renfro came out and just literally just said that, yo, go after management, go after all that fat right there.
Right.
It would be great, right? At least he'll be shoulder to shoulder with us, right? Instead of having special interests come after our standards, we should be going on the offense and being like, yo, there's one manager for every 7 carriers. Like
It used to be 1 in 11. It used to be 1 in 11. It went to 1 in 7.
It used to be
Not
1
only
in
that,
25. 1 in
go
25.
back to the fucking
Way
scanner.
back, yeah.
My custodian in my building has a scanner now where he has to click if he's sweeping or mopping the fucking floor. Why don't they put a scanner on the boss to have them mark down what they are doing throughout the day, every step of the day?
I
So
second this
now
motion.
the custodians are being tracked, the carriers are being tracked, the clerks. How about we just go all in? Let's stick a scanner straight up the management's ass and let's see where they are all day. Let's see what they're doing all day. If we're going to do it to us, let's do it to everybody. Because I'll tell you this, I would love the idea of what was that TV show where the boss would go into the corporation as a made up guy?
Undercover boss.
Undercover boss. Let's send a Joy in a fake wig and a fake mustache to these offices and watch the bosses all day. How many bosses do you think he would get rid of? Why is a postmaster, when you have two towns that are border where there's no difference between 4 miles between each office, you need a postmaster in each office? Why can't the postmaster run both offices? I just cut 50 jobs in one district. Right. Then you have a day supervisor. 90% of our job, we supervise ourselves. Right. Their job is to answer the goddamn phone, which they don't do 95% of the time. So why not you have the day supervisor run the office during the day? Night supervisor runs it at night. They contact the postmaster who's running 2 or 3 offices. Hell, that postmaster makes 150 now. Cut one of those jobs, give him 175. I could care less. You just give him a raise.
Give him a raise.
Cut the damn jobs.
Capone, write that down. That's a good idea. We're going to come up with the task force right now on the Next Generation Choirs podcast. Like,
goddamn MPOs and district managers. Does anybody know what an MPO does compared to a district manager? Or how about their secretaries? How about their number 2 in line? What about this guy who's this guy's fuckity fuck that guy?
Well,
there's too many of them.
This is the mentality that we need Brian Renfro to have, right? Like,
Team Sean
O'Brien had that fierce fight. Sean Fain, the UAW, had the same attitude, right? Like, we need to go on the offense and go after the management. But instead, our union's like, oh no, just play nice with them. And it's like, yo, no, like,
how's that been working out? Yeah,
like, and like Capone said it, like, right? He mentioned Doge and Elon Musk. I'm down here in Florida. Like, majority of my office, I would say, it's conservative, and I like even like the boss was like, oh, you guys, I gotta be careful. And it's like, yo, dude, you gotta be careful. Like, there's no reason we should have 6 supervisors in an office with 70 workers.
I'm sorry.
That ratio is
tangent here.
What is it?
I'm on a tangent here. What you said is 100% right. These fucking bosses are losing money because of violations, and our union says we are going to get rid of cease and desist, and we're going to not hammer them because there's a small piece of the pie, and we don't want to lose that piece of the pie. Why the fuck isn't the answer? Have management not violate the contract? How about instead of performance reviews, they lose money based on how much money they lost the post office in contract violations? Get them to actually understand the contract and do it correctly. We're giving them bonuses and giving them performance reviews or whatever the fuck they want to call them based on metrics that they create before the time has started. But at the same time, do not care about customer service. We don't send out surveys to the customers. The voice of the employee doesn't do shit. And then on top of it, they're losing money in basic grievances, which they don't care. Postmaster's going to lose $5 million. He doesn't hear a fucking word about it.
Yep.
He might get a promotion.
Right.
And
Nothing.
we're just
they
saying,
fail upward
hey,
every time.
Do not go too high on those penalties because we don't want to hurt them. Really, because they're hurting me. They're hurting my brother's pocket. They're hurting my sister's pocket. And they're doing it constantly. And our answer is, no, we don't want to hammer them too bad. How about they learn the contract? How about they learn their job? They sucked at carrying. That's why they became bosses. So they can't do the carrying part. Maybe they can do the administrative part and learn the contract a little bit and stop complaining about the money they're losing due to them violating the contract.
I want to pivot. Every episode I try to bring up a book, right? This is the proposed resolutions and amendments book that I got at the NALC convention. In the back of the book, it talks about all the previous resolutions that were adopted. one of the previous resolutions that was adopted, I believe, in the 1970s or 1980s, was that the carriers get to evaluate the manager before they get promoted. So before they become a 204B, that office evaluates that person. And then before they turn in from a 204B to a manager, they get evaluated again. And that is something that I know is never going to happen, right? Our union is never going to be like, oh, yeah, well, like, let's fight for that. But that is a realistic thing, like, right? Like, we see these managers fuck up every day. We should have a say on if they get promoted or not, because we are a public good. And if they're fucking up, we should go public with this, right? Like, wage theft, right? That's the biggest theft in the world is wage theft, not some dude stealing a TV from a Kmart. The biggest theft in the world is wage theft. Wage theft takes all the theft money combined is wage theft. That's the whole pie right there. If you look it up in the world, wage theft is the biggest slice of that pie. Our boss is stealing our money, and it happens throughout the entire country, right? It's a normal thing. Our union,
John, we had
our union should
of the
be,
convention.
I'm saying, like, our union should be coming out being like, yo, we have incompetent motherfuckers running this place. Trim that fat. Like Brian Renfro 600 days ago should have done this. And it's at this point, I'm just repeating myself, and I'm just getting more depressed that we're 700 days without a contract, and it's fucking depressing.
Right. John, there was a motion made at the convention to look into an outside agency looking into the paychecks. It was brought up by my old representative Bobby DeMartin in regards to a new system to catch, inaccuracies and incorrect payments, saying that it's happening all the time. We need an outside industry that will constantly look at this. And it was shot down. It's okay, if this is such a widespread problem, why the hell aren't we losing our mind? You're 100% wage theft. I'm here to work. I ain't here to make friends. I'm here to work. Right. So to take any money out of my pocket is completely insane, and that we're just not going to look at it. Another point I wanted to make about the 204B and the supervisor evaluation. I don't think I can give the whole story because I don't know what I'm held to, but I will tell you this. There are a lot of supervisors I know that I met a supervisor a couple of years later, and they said, oh, you know them? Yeah, no, they were a carrier for me, and they sucked. So I had them take the exam multiple times to get them hell out of my office. Huh. A lot of these bosses were guys that couldn't carry, that they wanted them off the street. Hey, you'd make a great supervisor. Why don't you take the exam? Oh, you failed?
You got a great head on your shoulders there, guy.
Take it again.
Yep.
I believe one of my bosses told me he had a guy 6 times failed it. Kept on having him take it again. Because you know what? I, quote unquote, couldn't deal with him as a carrier. I had to get rid of him out of my office. So I made him a boss. And then I got that boss a couple of years later.
All right. Switching gears here too, because I know we're on time here. But arbitration. We want to touch on that. So we surprise, master negotiator Brian Renfro did not actually get a masterful tentative agreement. The numbers were published. There's a story on that, but it looks like we're going to be going there. So there's no date, as I'm sure there's no date set right now, but we're looking at, I mean, who knows? I don't think I've heard. Has anyone heard anything on when it might be happening, or is it too soon to even know?
I want to backtrack real quick. I got sent numbers, right? The offers, the USPS offers. I don't think they have announced those yet, but this is from a carrier, and these numbers are pretty depressing. So the USPS second offer was 1.3, 1.9, 1.8. They took step A and double A. The $1,000 for step P, they took that away. They kept step P. PTFs would be at about $25 an hour, and CCAs would be at about $21 an hour. And that's at the end of this contract, which is the end of 2026. So imagine at the end of 2026, you're coming in as a PTF and only making $21 an hour.
You're still making less than a clerk PTF at 27.
And I'm not sure if I'm correct about this. You guys can look up the numbers. Compared to the first contract, I think that took away $1 an hour from the PTFs to give $1 an hour to the CCAs. And we lost the $1,000 at the top step, which God knows how much that need will equal $1,000 per top step carrier. Not only younger carriers, remember, you're going to make top step. So you want that top step high.
Right.
All the money that they save that to get 1.8 and 1.9. I was told, I don't know how true this is, the way the arbitration works is what the post office offer is the floor, and whatever the union offers is the ceiling. If that is true, which is the fucking floor? Because I can't figure out which offer is worse, the first one or the second one.
Yeah,
I feel like they went
the numbers.
backwards.
Is a zero-sum game? Like I think it equals out to zero. It seems like, or
it seems like it goes less. It feels like we went in there and said, "We hate this contract, 1.3. This is not going to work," and they said, "We're offering you less now." No. Negotiations don't work that way. I start here, you start there. We meet in the middle. Post office is going backwards.
Right.
So when we go to arbitration, what is their low floor now? Because it seems like it was the first offer was their floor. And where's our ceiling?
Right.
There's all this talk about who released this, who released that. We're mad about that. What is our?
That was the concern. That was the special executive council meeting was about that. Who let this out? It's like we're the members who pay your salary. We should know. We want open bargaining. Tell us. Like this isn't. No, we have a right to know. This is my money, dude, not yours. You're not getting a 1.3% raise. You have to deal with it. We do. So no, we should have every right to know what's going on.
At this point, you're going to arbitration. Why not let us know what you've been asking?
Yeah.
All we're getting is generalities. Well, we're trying to get one table. Well, we don't want CCAs. Well, we think we should be this. It's time to tell us what you asked for, so we know what we're going into arbitration looking for.
Absolutely.
I think one of the things is I'm always trying to build the union, right? So to build the union, we need to actually show that we're united and management hates us. So I think Renfro should, at the very least, show us what the first offer was from the USPS. And one of the biggest criticisms that most people should have that they don't really think about is during contract talks, all these negotiators and stuff like that have to sign non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, and they can't talk about it. As a workforce, we're a union. This is our contract. We should be against any NDAs. Like, we should be straight open bargaining. If they're signing agreements where they can't talk about it to the members, that's literally a concession already. And we need a break from that. We need, in the end, we need side-by-side bargaining on a weekly basis. We need to see what the post office brought to the table, and we need to see what the union brought to the table every week. And we need to know if Article 1 got touched or if Article 2 got ignored. Like, we need side-by-side bargaining on a weekly basis. That way it strengthens the union because we know the post office from day one gave us shit. And as Capone just said, we don't know which offer was worse because they're both terrible.
But yeah, so I mean, I would just say that moving forward to our solution here, it's getting people to do stuff. And look, I know we've all been activists. We're tired. We work a lot. We don't have much free time, but it's very important we have to show up to these rallies. We have to show the public that we're here, we're counted, and we matter, and we really, really need bodies to people to show up because we're fighting for all of us. We're going to have a hell of a next 4 years coming up. And unfortunately, our national leadership, they're just starting what they should have done 600 days ago. They should have actually started organizing rallies way before, like the Teamsters, like the UAW, like SAG-AFTRA, like all these teachers' unions who actually organized their members and dared, I'm not calling for it, but they dared to actually break the law on certain points. Because it's better to break the law than to break the union. And like I said, the teachers' union of Massachusetts did it, and they won. I'm not calling for anything illegal. Just saying that.
We, as a workforce, need to fight for the right to strike. We need to be able to strike to preserve the service of the Postal Service. We are a service. It'd be cool if we were a business and we could just let this go under, but fuck it. We are a service. We're a public good. that goes to every house every day, supposedly. And I want to highlight the fact that we saw teachers in West Virginia stand up and fight, and they went on strike and they won. We saw teachers in Las Vegas go on strike and they won. And these are right to work anti-union states, right?
Arizona as well.
Yeah. And where else was the teachers unions down south? But the point is we hear it all the time, like, we can't fight back. It's, why can't we? We need to dare to struggle, dare to win, and have a good career moving forward, because the next contract is literally less than a year away.
But my mother was a teacher, a unionized teacher for many, many years. She retired in 2019, and they were a day away from going on strike in Massachusetts, and they ended up settling last minute. But I wish we could do something like that, where we could stand up and fight for our rights. Absolutely.
And preserving Article 6 with the no layoff clause. If we gain the right to strike, we cannot give up the layoff clause.
Right.
So this isn't a fight for the NALC to go, all right, well, let's fight for the ability to strike, and we'll give you the no layoff clause. We need that protection. And that's been my concern about the let's fight for the right to strike. Do not lose that no layoff clause, because if they have that ability, they will be laying off anybody left and right just because they're upset.
So just to plug everything, so if you are in the New England area, drop us a line at bfnboston@gmail.com. We are organizing a rally on Sunday, March 23rd. If you're new, we got, I don't want to officially announce it, but a small local, not small, a mighty local, not saying small, a mighty local is shown interest in joining us. So we're excited about it. Our movement is growing here in Massachusetts BFN. You don't have to be a BFN member to join it. You just have to be a letter carrier, or you're in the auxiliary, or you're just pro-labor in general. But we definitely need people to be there, help organize. It's been great. You'll be with the like-minded people. Going to rallies is a wonderful experience. Change is coming. So please keep up the fight, keep up the struggle.